Hey everybody, what's up today? So we're going to be looking at two different types of encoding today. We're going to be looking at variable and fixed length encodings. So let's take a look at this. So let's talk about what variable length encoding is. Um, Variable length encoding just simply means that the each bit of information is going to have a different number of bits for each symbol or representation. So, some symbols may require just 1 or 2 bits, whereas other symbols may require 8, 9, 10 bits, all kinds of things. Um, think about like your age. So we would only need, maybe if we were in decimal, we only need 1 bit to represent your age until you turn 10, and then you would need 2 bits, after you turn 10, because then you have a 1 and a 0, and then 11, 12, 13. You need 2 bits of information if you're in decimal. And then when you turn 100, if you make it that far, then you've got 3 bits of information: a 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 2. So that would be variable length encoding. So the you know different different things would have different representation. Different representations would have different numbers of bits. So it's a variable length. It's not all the same. Um, let's take a look, and you can read some of this if you want to. Morse code is an example of variable length encoding. So, for example, an E in Morse code is just one short tap, um, whereas an A would be a short tap and a long tap, or a dot and a dash. So it would take you know, 2 bits of information for an A, whereas only 1 for an E. But a Z would be 2 dashes and 2 dots. So a Z would be 4 bits of information. So this is variable length for different letters. There's different amount of information we have here. And the way they separate them is they put a pause between each symbol. So if they were doing, A, B, then it would be, dot, dash, pause, dash, dot, dot, dot. So they put that pause in there to separate the pieces of information. We kind of do the same thing in the English language when we're writing a paper. We put a little bit of space in between each representation, so we don't cram all the letters together in a sentence, but we put spaces, pauses in between, so we can separate different packets of code. So anyway, let's look at this. Let's look at fixed length encoding. So variable length encoding, again, is like different amounts of bits per thing you're trying to represent. But with fixed length encoding, it's always the same length when you're trying to represent something. So, for example, we talked about the ASCII table before. With the ASCII table, it's a fixed length encoding. There's always going to be 8 bits of information to represent one thing. So, like the 0 here, um, the 0 on your screen is represented by a 0011 and then a 0000. So altogether 00110000. That represents that character or that number 0. For the letter A, you're going to have 01000001 to represent the A. So every single time, it's always the exact same length. It's a fixed length encoding. It takes 8 bits of information every single time, always, no matter what you're doing. Notice this, most modern encodings are fixed length instead of variable length. Another example would be the Baudot code. We have in this one 5 bits of information, and we punch in holes for the values that we want to keep. So it's kind of like binary. You're either on or off. You're either punched or not punched to represent this, but it's in series of 5, so you'd have a maximum of 5 that are punched in there. So you can see the different representations there, but each one is always going to be 5 bits long. But you can kind of crab them together there. You don't have to put a space in between because we know every 5 characters that, or every 5 bits of information, we're going to start the next representation. So take a look at this. Uh, why sometimes we write a date like this, like 02/05 2013, so that'd be February 5th or 2013. Or you could write it like this, 2/5 2013. So why do you think that they would put in leading zeros sometimes? Like, why do you think they would put a 0 here um, sometimes instead of just 2/5 2013? And of course, the first is fixed width, right? So with this one, it's always going to be the same amount of bits, even if you had, an 11 here and a 24 here. It's the same length, or even a 2 or a 5. It's going to take the same amount of information. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's always going to be 8 long to represent any date. Whereas this one would change because on a month that only has 1 digit, you're 1 digit less. But if this became a 12, if you're on December, then that would include a little bit longer um, date, or a little bit more. We'd have to have more bits to represent it. So anyway, um, this might be used more in a computer setting where we need to know, exactly when those bits change. What's the day? What's the month? What's the year? All right. So just some questions here. How can you know where one character ends and the next begins? Well, we saw with fixed length, or with variable length, we have to put some kind of pause or some kind of break or some other idea in there, so that we know that this word or this number is done and we're moving on to the next thing. With fixed length, we know that every certain number, so if it's 5 long, then we know after 5 we start over on the next one. And then after 5 more, we start over on the next, letter or whatever it is. So each encoding method has its trade-off. So think about one advantage and one disadvantage for each method. And just as an example, with the fixed length, um, an advantage would be you don't have to put spaces in there, and it's more, I guess, more streamlined, maybe easier to code, because every certain amount it's going to reset and it's going to restart. But with variable length, one advantage might be that it's shorter. Like, imagine, for example, when I'm giving my age, because some humans live up to 100 years old. So what if I always had to give my age as I'm not just 31, but I'm 031? I'm 031. I always have to take up those 3 bits. Well, the 0 is sometimes, I guess, maybe extra information that we don't have to give. And so we might have to take up more space in a computer if we were using fixed, whereas with variable, it's maybe less space because we don't have to put those leading zeros in. So I don't have to say I'm 031 years old. I'm just 31 years old. So that could be one advantage for using variable. But anyway, guys, if you have any questions, let me know. But I guess that's going to be it for me today. Hope everybody has an awesome afternoon or morning or whenever you're watching this, and I will see you in the next video.